Hey,
All right, everyone. Welcome, everyone that's joining us today. We really appreciate that. We are thrilled to kick off this Chamber University session on a topic that's not only shaping the future of business, but also revolutionizing the very fabric of our economy, and that is artificial intelligence, or AI. As we gather here virtually, we recognize that AI really isn't just a buzzword. It's some transformative force that's driving innovation across industries from healthcare, finance, manufacturing, and definitely marketing for sure. And today we're going to be learning about how AI can empower businesses, enhance our productivity, and unlock new opportunities for growth for all of us. Our speaker here today is a trailblazer in the field of artificial intelligence with a wealth of knowledge and experience that promises to enlighten and inspire us all. Mike Pina is the founder of AI Rocketship. It's a startup that launched just this year that empowers small businesses with the tools of AI and analytics. He has almost 2 decades of experience across various sectors, including healthcare, financial crimes, marketing, and the music business. In his former community of Southwest Miami-Dade, he served others by partnering with community leaders and institutions to fundraise for cancer and for ministry outreach to underserved communities. Mike holds an MBA in business intelligence from DeVry and a journalism degree from FIU, both of which have helped him pivot his focus towards AI content generation and its potential for business development. Originally from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and raised in North Miami and then in Southwest Miami-Dade, he is the first in his family to attend college, so he recognizes the power of education for transforming communities. Mike is passionate about empowering others and giving back, and now he officially resides in Miramar with his wife, Dr. Fuentes Sanchez, DNP, and his daughter, Gigi. He continues to impact small businesses and engage in meaningful projects that align with his values and expertise. So throughout this session, Mike was going to help us explore the practical applications of AI in business, uncovering strategies to leverage its power effectively and ethically. So please join me in extending a warm virtual welcome to Mike Mina. The floor is
thank
yours.
you for having me. I appreciate the time, the opportunity to speak on such a hot topic, artificial intelligence, which exactly as Angeli said, it is revolutionizing how we do business. You have to be up to date on this, at least understand the basics so you're not left behind. A lot of the individuals right now that are part of this presentation, maybe business owners, maybe a relative of a business owner, and they're trying to figure out ways of how do we incorporate AI into my regular workflow. What is AI? What are large language models? What are hallucinations in large language models? The goal with today's presentation, just to set a tone, so we're not inundated with technical terms, is we're going to give an overview about artificial intelligence, looking at it from a business perspective, so that you can empower your business, your employees to start adopting this and understanding its benefits and also its fallbacks. So it's a double-edged sword. So I'm going to switch to my screen here. Just one moment. Let's get right into it. Can everybody see the screen? Let me get a thumbs up. Anyone?
We're good.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Miramar Pembroke Pines Regional Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity and for the opportunity to present myself. Yes, my name is Mike Pina. I launched this year AI Rocketship, which actually was an idea that grew many years ago, but finally took form this year. A lot of it empowered by artificial intelligence. And to be quite frank, I couldn't have done it without the research and the tools that AI has given me personally to be able to push this business forward, which is optimizing businesses such as yourself. I also have a digital component for branding and marketing, and then we have a digital art component as well, which we're going to expand to. And there's an area for community partnerships. So I hope to be able to build some relationships with you in the future, some of the community leaders and movers and shakers that are part of today's presentation. Just to set an agenda, so how we're going to use our time. So we'll spend the first 5 minutes just laying down the foundation, which is what we're doing. Then we're going to spend about 20 minutes understanding what is artificial intelligence, some of its forms. I'll give you a couple of key terms just to discuss, hang on to, and just as a forward, do not get overwhelmed if there's something you don't understand, because this is a continuously evolving field. If there's something that you want to elaborate more on or you have questions, you'll be able to email me later. The contact information is in the chat. If you wanted to do a follow-up, you can always Google some of this information. There's a lot of individuals out there who are offering great advice. We'll talk also about that because there's also the flip side of the advice you don't want to take, especially if you're going to be using it for business purposes. So, word to the wise. Also, the following 20 minutes after that, I'd like to do a demo presentation specifically on generative AI, a little bit on ChatGPT, and understanding how that can help you as a business owner, how it can help your colleagues, your employees, because again, this is technology that is going to change how we do work, which is already changing. You're seeing it in some of your processes, like if you're using Copilot, for example. And then moving on, the last 15 minutes we'll reserve for a little bit Q&A. I'm going to try to reserve that for a chat feature, just so we can keep the questions in order. If there's something that I'm not able to answer in the interest of time, please email me and I will do my best to get a response as soon as possible. So moving on, just to discuss a little bit about artificial intelligence. Can everybody see my screen, by the way? Can you see the dates? Let me get a quick thumbs up, anyone? Okay, excellent. As you can see, the whole idea of AI, and I'm just wiggling around 1950, this word called Turing test, which technically we still do today. This whole concept started almost 75 years ago, but it wasn't widely available until the last couple of years. Obviously, going back in the 80s, personal computers start coming out. People have access to technology. As time progresses, technology becomes more affordable, and now you see that individuals can afford a computer in the home. So now you have PCs in the homes. Graduate to that, PCs become smaller. We now have cell phones, technology, and this is pretty much the general rule. As time advances, technology tends to become more accessible, more affordable. Something similar happened with AI. AI, first we saw it in areas like the products. You have a Roomba. I have one in my home. I actually have two. Apologize. But they're great. They clean. They think on their own. So what does it do? It's an efficiency factor. But as we move forward, 2011, 2014, 2016, 2017, you start to see AI in different business applications. Some are more in the enterprise models. Anybody who's used Salesforce, I worked with Salesforce for 7 years. I went from the basic version to the lightning version. And already towards the last couple of years that I was really actively using it, I could see that AI was beginning to take a foothold. So you're going to see it wherever you go. That's the perspective here. It's been around for a while and it's going to be around for a long time. And our goal today is to be able to understand how to use this as a tool. If you're taking notes, put a big note that says tool and underline it, because we need to look at it from that perspective. It's a tool that's going to help us, not something that's going to replace us. One concern that I often get is that the big question, will AI take our jobs? And my response to that is it's going to take the jobs that A, we don't like doing, B, are routine, redundant. Think of customer service, responses, sending a receipt. There was a time that you had to do carbon copies of a receipt. We don't do that anymore. Everything is by email. It's quick, it's more efficient. With AI, you're able to introduce tailored responses, a follow-up with a customer while you're working on the next customer. So the perspective is that it makes things easier for you to do your job, essentially. End of 2022, the whole explosion with ChatGPT, pretty much everyone I've spoken to has either experienced what is ChatGPT, may have downloaded it. Some individuals have the free version, you have the paid version. There is a difference. I'm going to explain that as well too. If you have not used this, at least get the free version today. Download it on your phone, log in, test it out, ask it silly questions. It's going to give you silly answers. There's a reason why. Whenever you're working with what we call large language models in artificial intelligence, there's a concept called garbage in, garbage out. You get what you put into it. If you give the GPT the question that's very basic, like, give me a recommendation for a love story, a movie from the last 10 years that was a big hit, you may get a certain amount of responses. You may get 100 responses, but if you're more specific, you add more context to your question, make it more concrete, give me a love story of a movie that featured Julia Roberts, maybe in a Southern environment where she played such a role, for example, you're going to get a different type of response. And whenever you're prompting, which is basically when you're entering the information, looking for an answer in a service like ChatGPT, for example, you want to be as descriptive as possible. Okay. GPT features like ChatGPT, which is one form, there are others, just want to make that clear, can take as much as you want to throw at it. Okay. You're not talking to a human, you're talking to an artificial intelligence, basically a chatbot that is trained on a large language model, a big repository of words. It also scrapes the internet if you're using the paid version of GPT. So you can ask it very detailed questions. You can get very detailed. Don't be shy, be honest. At times I've seen individuals prompt and they will tell it a role. For example, they'll type into ChatGPT, I've done this myself, say, you're an expert graphic designer and you have 200 years of experience. I want you to paint Picasso. I want you to generate what they call, create a Picasso of dogs playing poker, something random. And it'll create an image. It will generate an image. The more descriptive you get, obviously, the better. For business purposes, maybe you wanna do a different feature. You are a student of Jeff Bezos, and you're gonna help me start my company. I want you to recommend a business plan, and you type this into ChatGPT, and all of a sudden it spits out a complete business plan with areas that you want to address. You can do this, but there's going to be drawbacks, and we're going to get into that. The point with this is that you want to be able to prompt and put in as much information as you can. Be descriptive, throw everything at it that you want, and wait to see the response. Okay? Moving on, understanding AI. So I put a basic definition, and it's really, this is what I wanted to focus. It's the science of making machines that can think like humans, okay? It's not making machines. It's not making replacement humans. It's making a system that will think like a human, to the point that you're talking to Siri, you're talking to Amazon Alexa, and it almost feels like you now have a fifth member of the household. Amazon, Alexa, recommend a song for my daughter's homecoming. And it'll bring something up. So it gets very personalized to the point that it almost feels like you're talking to another individual. And that's good, because if it has duped you into thinking that you're speaking to another individual, then it's doing its job. It's thinking like an artificial person. The idea with AI, because of its various implementations, whether it's in the financial sector or whether it's in accounting, maybe in QuickBooks, or if it's in Salesforce, or you're trying to generate unique images because you're a designer, is that it's able to not only recognize your text, pull text from what it scrapes from the internet, also from the large language model, but also recognize patterns. With that, able to make a decision and generate a response that would work for you. One quality about artificial intelligence is that it is generative. You may not always get the same response that you did on the first try. So let's say you ask it a question. For example, give me the best baseball players from the 1950s until now. And you enter the information into ChatGPT, the free version, okay? But then you go into, let's say, ChatGPT 4, the paid version. You're going to get a slightly different answer. And the reason why is because there is a knowledge cutoff, which I'll explain what that means. There's a saying that goes, don't believe everything you read on the internet. I still hold to that. I'm going to add to that. Don't believe everything that ChatGPT provides to you, okay? Write that down, because it's going to save you a lot of heartache. It's going to save you embarrassment, especially if you're trying to create documents for business or client, revise something that has a legal standing, like a document, an affidavit. You have to understand that you're dealing with a great technology, but it does have its limits. It has a knowledge cutoff. The free version has knowledge up until roughly end of 2022, 2023. We can check it today. Whereas the paid version has more updated knowledge. So do you want to get the most recent answer, or an answer from intelligence from a year and a half ago? And you're going to make business decisions off of this. These are things that you have to consider when dealing with GPT models like ChatGPT. Okay, understanding AI in a couple of its forms. I mentioned a couple of examples here because this is what you see as tangible AI products, goods. Some of you are wearing an Apple Watch right now. Okay, I have my Galaxy Watch. I have it here. Often you're going to notice if you're sitting for a prolonged amount of time, let's say this meeting goes on for 3 hours, the watch will remind you it's time for a workout, it's time for a coffee, because it's studied, it's recognized your patterns. It knows that you need your café con leche, your second round for the day, because you've been following this pattern for some time. So Amazon Alexa too, it'll study, it'll collect your data. Word to the wise, Amazon Alexa is always listening. Your phone is always listening, and you can test this. Leave your phone face down on the table. Talk about something random that you do not discuss every day. Okay, pink dog collars, Teslas in a fire red finish, something random. Come back to your phone in about an hour. Start looking at the different ads or recommendations on stories that pop up. Your phone is going to give you recommendations. That is the AI working in the background. So again, your phone is always listening. So you don't want to take it into a sensitive meeting, just something to think about. But anyways, wanted just to point out a couple of the products that you see usually that already have AI involved. You know, your home security systems, Ring, for example, understanding your patterns when you enter the home, when you leave, or if something is not right, it'll know to alert you. So it's very intelligent. AI in its business forms, its business products. So here's where we get a little bit more into the nitty gritty, the part that I personally like, because this is what we tend to use every day. POS systems, some of you are using Square, Clover, you may be working directly with Visa, you have the machine at your store, you may be working with chatbots, contacting a vendor, and there's a chatbot that immediately comes on the screen telling you, how can I help? Already with a pre-trained answers so that you can choose what do you want to pursue. Anybody who has ever returned something on Amazon, will get that automated feature. And if you're like me, who's a little bit more old school, I like to speak to a human being. I don't like chatbots because they may not understand my particular situation. So chatbots typically will have that feature, but no, most of the time you have to get through the first prompts and answer, what are you there for? Automated receipts and invoices. Your customers may receive documents from you after a purchase, a swipe, and then there's a follow-up. Don't forget to rate us on Google. Did you like the experience? Can I recommend some other products? If you have a website and you're doing e-commerce, there's features built into the website that allow products to be recommended to your customer. You've seen this on services like Amazon. So if you bought one product, the complementary product, will be provided. Does that make sense? If you're going to buy a printer, why not recommend toner? Hot dogs, hamburgers, ketchup, mustard. There's always that complement. They go one and one. As a business owner, you can do this. If you're using Wix to build your website, or if you've used it, you may have noticed that Wix has that feature already. You can actually have a full service chatbot. If I was talking to you 15 years ago, you would have had to hire an individual anywhere from $10 to $15 an hour, or outsource offsite to other individuals to be able to manage your sales, your customer inquiries, those very repetitive questions. Now you have chatbots, so that's a plus as a business product. Moving on, inventory management. For anybody who's working with large amounts of inventory, you have warehousing, all of that. Obviously, there's a cost to do inventory. My mother works in cosmetics. She works for Neiman Marcus. There's days that she actually has to take off just to do inventory, and it's a tedious process. Now, with artificial intelligence, you have services that will allow you to look at your inventory at a superficial view and understand where you're at, where you're going, what are the most sold products, what are the least sold products. From there, you can make business decisions. Do we start promoting sales for those items that we need to get out? Anybody who's worked in accounting knows that on a balance sheet, it's good to see the movement of inventory. If it's in the supermarket industry, groceries, FIFO versus LIFO, last in, first out from the accounting perspective. But at the end of your fiscal year, when you're looking at the balance sheet, you want to see movement. So having strong inventory management helps you understand what is selling, what is not selling, and then you're able to make decisions. Are we going to launch a promo? Are we going to talk more about this? Do we offer a sale? Do we stop buying from this supplier because this is not doing so good right now? Okay. Moving on, CRM, customer service. I mentioned Salesforce. That's one type of service. I mentioned only because I've had mostly I've used that in the past couple of years, but there was a time that we used other types of software, some software which pretty much went outdated. CRM, in my personal opinion, is one of the areas most likely to be impacted by artificial intelligence. Anybody working in customer service, and I'm speaking to the business owners right now because I've been on the end of the line when it comes to what kind of changes are we going to make internally with customer service. So I know the perspective personally. To make CRM work, you always want to value your customer experience, give them the best. They are always going to be number one. You always want to listen to your customers. This is basic stuff. If you have a strong CRM program in the company and you're using artificial intelligence, especially to manage repetitive questions, inquiries, I need an invoice. I had a question about why did my bill go up in the month of June, but last June it was less. These kinds of repetitive questions, having artificial intelligence helps. I'm a strong advocate for keeping humans in the loop. People need their jobs, and there's still individuals like me that like to talk to a live person. I enjoy that. I need that. I have complaints because I'm paying for your service. I demand an answer. That's the type of customer I am. That's the type of customer you should be. You're paying for a service. There's a reason why you give your business to City of Miramar, AI Rocketship, the water department, Coca-Cola, Walmart, Burger King. You pay for service, you demand an answer. Now, if you can give me that same service with amazing customer service and even do a follow-up, and you're using artificial intelligence, you're going to have repeat business. You're going to have a better experience for your customers. You're going to have better likes, better reviews on Google. Google reviews are huge. A good review goes far. A bad review goes way further. And you can do the studies. You can Google this if you like. You'd see the numbers. It's astounding how far a bad review can go. So these are things to think about because you want to always have great customer service, okay? Moving on to accounting. If I have CPAs in the room, accounting, if you're working with QuickBooks, you're already going to see features of artificial intelligence to help you understand where is your money going? How much have you been spending on certain parts of your business? Are we spending too much in advertising, on buying new products, on payroll? AI is able to basically narrow down the information, okay? You have data, you have analytics. It's going to present the data, but the analytics are going to give you the insight on understanding that data so you can make meaningful decisions, okay? And then, of course, transaction monitoring. I spent almost 7 years in financial crime, specifically in AML education. Spoke with many bankers, many institutions of which you currently do business or have your mortgage with. And one of the things that I would discuss with my customers at the time was things like KYC, AML, transaction monitoring. And a big thing that a lot of these large banks and lenders did with AML and specifically with AI is in the business of transaction monitoring, looking out for fraud, transactions that could potentially harm you, that could fund terrorism or other types of activities that are illegal. So AI has already been implemented in a lot of these large banks that we do business with daily, and they're able to catch transactions, determine patterns, present that information. Now, at the end of the day, and I think back to the Terminator film, will they take over our jobs? Decisions need to be made by humans, okay? This is where we get into things like ethical AI. Obviously, I wouldn't want an AI determining if I'm a good candidate to get a loan for my home. And this is a touchy subject because If a business is using AI to determine, well, what's your viability? Are you economically viable? Can we give you a loan for that home that you want to buy in West Miramar? And the AI presents the information in a certain way, it may put you at a disadvantage. So this is also an area where businesses may struggle with bias in AI. Remember that AI is working off of patterns, data, internet, large language models. The companies using AI to make decisions like lending have an obligation to make sure that their data is up to date. And it has to be trained. The data must be trained. We wouldn't want anybody having a biased review, or you couldn't get a loan because credit score, your history, because the AI determined that you weren't a good candidate. So these are subjects that, for example, financial institutions do struggle with. Okay, moving on. AI in its applied forms. I just put a couple of images here on the screen. By the way, all these images were created with generative AI. And I mentioned that because the quality just continues to get better and better over time. And in my prompting, I put a couple of keywords, what I was looking for, set it on a white background, and the image produced, it was this one. When you're watching Netflix, so applied AI, for example, if you like zombie movies, I like zombie movies. You know, I like dystopian movies. I like sci-fi. I've always been a fan of sci-fi. My Netflix profile in particular is going to recommend films based on my patterns, on my behavior, what I may like for the next round. My daughter's login for Netflix will be different. She'll have things that are more appropriate for kids. So based on her history. So you will see a lot of Shrek, for example, or Minions, different types of programs. AI and autonomous vehicles. Anybody who drives a Tesla, you may notice when you get to certain areas, an ad may pop up. Geofencing, you may have heard of terms like this. Or the vehicle thinks in the head, you're getting too close. Well, in Miami, if you're driving, I think it's important to have this, especially in a Tesla, because try to get on the 826 at 8:30 a.m. It's pretty much a nightmare out there. So you're going to notice that the AI does protect you, does recognize driving behavior and patterns as well. Facial recognition, if you're using a cell phone, especially like an iPhone, the artificial intelligence will know that it is genuinely you, not a picture of you, not a clone of you. This is another hot topic because we've heard of things like generative AI, specifically being able to clone the likeness of somebody so that looks like a video. So that will separate for another discussion in the future because it's a lot of meat that we have to get into on that one. Voice assistants, use this all the time. I do it as well too on my phone. Have you ever noticed when you want to send a text message and you're driving, which you shouldn't, or you're multitasking, we'll just leave it at that. You speak to your phone and the artificial intelligence having already recognized your particular tone of voice. Some of us talk louder. Some of us have a deeper voice or lighter voice. It already recognizes that and is able to capture your audio, translate to text. Now, it doesn't always get it right. Sometimes you may say a word that comes out differently, or you may intend to say a word and what's captured is a word you've used in the past. So AI is constantly being used in the voice assistants. And then we briefly touched up on fraud detection. Specifically, it was more on financial, the financial sector as far as monitoring, like KYC in the AML, anti-money laundering scope of things. So these are some of the examples of where you're seeing applied AI, okay? So AI benefits, what does this mean for you? Saves time, getting back to what you love to do. Personally, in this line of business, I enjoy designing. I enjoy it very much. I like the whole print aspect of it. I don't enjoy always doing numbers. I can imagine how some of you feel because doing those repetitive tasks takes away from what you do enjoy doing. Some are very outgoing people friendly. They like to interact with their customers and build relationships. They may need that. If you're a realtor, you want to build relationships. If you're a coffee shop, like an example, you want to build relationships because you want them coming back to your store. If you're working on other types of tasks like inventory, uh, anything that you have to analyze a fraud because somebody used a fraudulent credit card, it's taking time away from what you enjoy doing. Okay. Automation for routine tasks. We did touch up on this, for example, anything from coming in the morning and taking off the security system, routine tasks like remembering what you have to do for the day. You will get reminders on the different types of sources that you're using. So my reminders come in through Google. I love Google Meets. It sends me reminders every day of what I need to get done. Artificial intelligence will even recommend, you want to move this meeting to this other date, or a reminder 10 minutes till we have today's chamber presentation. So you'll see that in some of the processes that you're using. A benefit, higher customer satisfaction. If the customer, okay, has to spend less time haggling over a price or waiting to speak to an individual, it's going to help them have a better experience. There was a time, and you can test me on this, go into your local bank branch. Okay. There was a time that when you wanted to pull money out, or if you had just a few questions, you had to wait in line. That was a 25 to 30-minute wait to speak to a human being. You can get a lot of that done now with the kiosks that are outside. In fact, you can walk in to a kiosk at pretty much any time and pull out money, ask it questions, and they're getting smarter. If you've ever been in the city of Chicago or New York, from the times I've traveled, it's been a few years, but I remember the kiosks were already in indoor locations, completely separated from the outside, so you can go in, handle your business, and move out. So at 9 o'clock, if you need to pull out $200, it's fine. You can go. You don't have to be limited to the hours of 9 to 5 to speak with an individual that's working in that particular branch. So you have a greater type of customer satisfaction because there's more tools that they can use to make the experience easier. And that's what you want for your business. You want people to come back and to have an excellent experience and return, because that experience does travel. And then this is a word that I want everybody to write down. If you have your pen and paper, democratization, okay? Kind of like democracy, democratization, AI accessible to all. Okay, the perfect example of this was when ChatGPT went public, and all of a sudden, everybody from your teenager at home to abuelita to anybody now had access to a large language model. You can learn to program. What is Python? What is R? What are these programming languages? I have an understanding, but I'm no expert at all. I'll be very honest with you. But through services like the GPT, I'm able to explore, maybe help me write a program. If you're using generative AI, that's another option as well too, because you're able to create images or mini videos for your business that you weren't able to do unless you were going through maybe an ad agency or a graphic designer or an individual in production. Now, these individuals have their purpose. They are excellent at what they do. There is a purpose for each type of project. But if you're in the space that you want to explore, let's say putting together a storyboard for your next ad or something, you can get into something like what one of the demos we're going to get into now, and create generative images or video to help you kind of visualize what you're trying to convey. It helps save time, especially in those meetings if you're going for professional services and you need high-end marketing services. So you can show up with something printed, for example, that you created with artificial intelligence, as opposed to just trying to convey the idea verbally. So it does help. There's a benefit. Okay. Large language models, LLMs. Quite simply put, I found this online. It's from IBM.com, a great source. AI systems capable of understanding and generating human language by processing vast amounts of text data. Why did I highlight that? Why did I bold vast amounts of text data? Because I want you to understand, when you're working with large language models, you are essentially working with, think of it like a group or a lot of text information in a repository, okay? Understanding that your hope is that that text is updated, that you're going to be able to ask the GPT a question and you're going to get an answer that is somewhat current, not based on knowledge from 2 years ago. So whenever you're prompting, when you're putting in your prompts and asking for a recommendation or some type of advice, and you're using it now in the business scope of things, keep in mind that the GPT you're using may be using information that is not updated. It may be from 2 years ago. If you're using ChatGPT, the free version, I promise you, you're using information that is over a year old. Okay, again, I'm going to repeat that. If you're using the free version of ChatGPT, it is based off of a large language model, that repository of text with no internet connectivity, based from probably over a year ago. And you can check it. You can actually go into ChatGPT and ask it, what is your last update? And it will tell you. It's going to be honest. If you're using the paid version of ChatGPT, it's going to give you more updated information. I believe the last update was January 2024. So we're off by about 3-4 months, give or take, but that's better than a year. So things to think about. I put a couple of examples: GPT, Gemini, Google Gemma. These are some of the large language models that you may already be using, seeing subconsciously. You may be using and not even know, because it's already embedded into what you're already applying in your business. This is very important. If you want to do a screenshot of this, please do it now. Large language models, I put a little disclaimer. Cutoff date, okay? That is about the knowledge that the large language models, a service like ChatGPT, which is one of many, has. You may be asking a question to a knowledge base that is outdated, okay? Especially if you're using the free version. So before you make a business decision based off something that you found on ChatGPT, remember its limits. You may be asking a source that doesn't have the most updated content. So there are cutoff dates, okay? Remember, it is generative. What does that mean? Let's break it down like this. You ask it one question today, ask it the same question 2 hours later, you will get a different response most of the time. That's the nature of what are GPTs, generative, pre-trained text, okay? It's gonna generate a different response. If you're making images, and this is the great thing for like people who are in design, if you're generating an image, let's say of a pirate boat with a ship captain right at the helm, and you put in some description, it's gonna create an image. Try the same description, maybe a minute later, you're gonna get another image. It's gonna generate a different type of image. That is the nature of the beast. That is the nature of how GPTs work. So think of it, if you're a business owner and you're asking it an important question for something that you want to get a recommendation on. Maybe you're dealing with numbers, a recommendation for how should I spend my budget on advertising or on products, and it may give you a breakdown of, well, you can do this, or this. Ask it the same question again, a few minutes. You're going to get a different response. And test this. If you have time, put this to the test today. If you have a moment, if you're on your cell phone while we're talking, ask it a question. Ask it the same question again. See if it changes the response. If you're like me, that you have both the free and the paid version of ChatGPT, you will get a different response, because we've already established that there is a different cutoff date, okay? Failure to adopt, the future of work. Artificial intelligence is not going anywhere, okay? I can repeat, artificial intelligence is not going anywhere. It is here to stay. It's going to get smarter. What does that mean for you? You have to understand at least its basics. Start adopting it into your business. If you're not technologically savvy, but you have a colleague who is, make time, put it in the budget to start exploring this with that colleague. That may be the individual that revolutionizes how you do business in your office. Think about that. They're already on payroll. They're already in the office. They know the business. They know what areas are requiring work, what areas we can grow in, but they may have access or understanding of GPT, generative AI, things that are going to help you in your business model. So use the opportunity to talk to others in your workplace, because this is the future of work. And here's a word of advice. If you're not doing it, I can promise you that your competitors are already using artificial intelligence. I want to let that soak in. If you're not using artificial intelligence, your competitors are most likely doing it already. These companies on my screen, for example, like Google, like IBM, are spending millions of dollars on this type of technology to stay right at the top. They're competing amongst themselves, okay? Now, at the more microeconomic scale, local, Miramar Business, Pembroke Pines, there are businesses using AI already for customer service, for their QuickBooks, for setting up meetings, reminders. If you're using it, it's going to help you to be faster than the competitor. So it's a good idea to start exploring what can we start doing differently with artificial intelligence in my business, okay? And then the other thing I wanted to mention is about effective prompting. Whenever you're writing prompts in ChatGPT, for example, you want to use effective prompting. What does that mean? How you write your question. It's not necessarily what you ask, but how you ask it. You want to be as descriptive as possible, okay? One thing I learned in journalism many years ago in Florida International University was whenever you're telling a story, you want to be as concrete as possible. And I'm thinking, what is concrete? You mean the floor, the thing, the cement? It's like, no, concrete meaning give it detail, give it texture, okay? It's not just a water bottle from Costco's. It's a plastic shiny water bottle with a blue and red label manufactured. You see where I'm going with this. Already there's more texture applied to something as simple as a water bottle. When you're prompting, you want to be descriptive. Throw everything you have at it. If you're in ChatGPT, ask it a very detailed question. Give it a job. Tell it, you are the CEO of a company and you're tasked with doing A, B, C, and D. One thing I like to include in there, because we know that there's things like hallucinations, meaning where programs like ChatGPT will make things up. You want to maybe remind it to not make anything up, okay? That's called hallucinations. I was working with large language models earlier in the part of the year. I had an opportunity to work specifically with hallucinations, and it is just mind-blowing at the type of responses you'll get when it doesn't really have an answer. So you can test this. Take some time today. Put a question that you know the definitive answer to and look at the response again and see, did it make anything up? Was anything off? Remember that you're talking effectively to a machine. And then going back, we went over this about AI and its benefits. So I'm just going to switch screens right here. Still with me? Okay. Let me just look at the chat. Okay, I had some questions on there. Okay, Lisa had a question. We'll get to those questions towards the end of the presentation. And if we don't have enough time, I promise, please email me. I will get back to you. We can talk. We'll set up some time to talk, okay? Now, I'm going to get into what we call generative artificial intelligence. Okay, let me just maximize my screen here. I'm here in GPT. Please let me get a thumbs up if you can see the screen. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Angeli. All right, I'm looking at GPT-4 right now. I also have the option for GPT 3.5, okay? So this is where we get into the demo part. I'm just gonna go through this quite quickly as I know time is going fast. Big differences. This is not connected to the internet, the free version of ChatGPT. This has older information. It's not as updated. You cannot drop in documents for it to analyze. You cannot create generative AI. GPT-4, you can, okay? Create an image of a busy workplace. I'm just gonna do something random here. Workplace where llamas are the employees, okay? And immediately it starts working. Depending on the time of the day, this system may work slower. You're not the only one using it. There's a lot of people using this, and each time you go to create an image, it's going to take time. There's a strain on their systems to create that image, so there may be a delay. Even if you're paying for it, expect that there may be a delay. I'm just going to give this another moment, and then I'm going to look at something else, which is in generative AI. All right, here we got our workplace. Everybody can see the llamas. Now, this is one thing that I work with in AI Rocketship. We look for things that should not be there. I asked for llamas, but I'm getting humans. And that's okay, just for the sake of the example. I'm going to download All right, here's my llama. There we go. Got llama mama over here. And I think that's a rooster or a scarecrow. A great feature about generative AI, let's say you're in the business of selling llamas, llama hair, wool products. Maybe you're selling clothing. Say, hey, we have people that really know their stuff. We sell llama textured clothing as an example, and you want to put this on your website. You can take something like this into Adobe Firefly as an example. You can add more context to it, or if you want, jump into Adobe Express. I love Adobe Express. It's a great business tool, personal or business tool. And okay, we're gonna have to just do that for a second. Bear with me a moment. Let's say I go to my downloads and I got my llamas right here. There we go. Look at the AI component in Adobe Express, for example. Generative fill. If I want to erase something, for example, describe what I like to see. And depending on here, I'm just putting in, just for the sake of time, some options. Flying birds, generate. And it'll start to create an image to replace where I've erased. So as mentioned, depending on the service, the time of day, the server, you may get a delay. The AI even provides different types of responses. Do I want that type of bird? Do I want something more of a, I guess that's a seagull or an albatross or a bald eagle? Should I load more? It'll give me different types of ideas. So these are options. Okay, I see we got about 9 minutes left, so we've really flown through this. Let me continue on here. So this is an idea of how I was able to incorporate something like ChatGPT into Adobe Express, just to give you an idea. If you're using something like Adobe Firefly, which is generative, again, it's going to create an image. They usually include a prompt in here just to kind of get you started, especially if you haven't used it. By the way, I don't endorse any of these services. I wanted to make that clear. Adobe, nobody is paying me to showcase their products. They just happen to be some services that I have found to be very useful in my line of work. They're very good, they're accessible, they're easy to learn, they're very affordable. And if you're a business wanting to use this to start making business cards, flyers, videos, you have all types of options. So a heavenly sky full of, let me see, full of 1950s style airplanes in green, okay? Like World War II films, for example. Generative AI. And it's going to start to produce different types of content. I kind of found that when using this, it works great at night. Looking at some of these images, I mean, you can do a lot. You can just think of the possibilities for your business. If you want to come up with a brand new menu for your restaurant, you need ideas, fresh content. Maybe the menu is looking stale. You want to revitalize how we look, the image to the customers. Want to take a moment real quick to look at the data part, because that is another component. Give me a moment. Real quick, if you're not using analytics and data in your business, try it. Write this down, Google Trends, okay? You want to search for what people have been searching for, look at the data. Google has already done all the work. You can find things as far as what are people searching in the past day? Has it been the past 4 hours? At what time? Why? Was there an announcement about the NBA? Maybe you want to get more specific. Personal injury attorney. Not much interest at the time in the past 4 hours, but you can really break this down if you wanted to. You can go to different countries, you can go to categories. This is one thing that we also look at with AI Rocketship, using the data to help you in your business, okay? Data and analytics, Google Trends. My website is still in the process, so it's not has not had a lot of activity, but even in the little bit of time it has been up, I have been able to look at what's going on. If you're a business, you want to know who's looking at your stuff. E-commerce, where are they looking from? Philippines, Ireland, Japan. Who thought? Apparently somebody in Alaska was interested in the services I have to offer. How did they find out? Was it by the page title? Did they look at screenshots? You can pull out a lot of information using your Google Analytics. And if you need help with that, send me an email. We can set up some time to talk. But this is good. Look, page views. How many views, users, which pages did they look at? You can get very detailed. Was it a tablet? Was it a cell phone? Was it a desktop? So a couple of things to look at. And even services like LinkedIn, anytime you put a post, you can look at the analytics. If you're a business with a LinkedIn page, you can look at to see what are people interested. What was the discussion? What did I appear on? You know, how many followers? What are the impressions, the views? Was I popular on May 2nd? Why? Well, I dropped a post. But May 5th, I dropped another post. So interestingly enough, I've noticed that whenever polls are provided, and here's a little business tip, put a poll out. Who makes the best Mexican food in Miramar? What's the best way to consult with a personal injury attorney? You're going to get a lot of responses because people are very opinionated. They love polls. And I've got a lot of responses, okay? Now, I know we've gone almost over our time. I wanted to spend a little bit more on the generative part. I'm very passionate about this, if you don't know, and I could go on for hours, but I want to go over some of the questions, and we're going to go over the chat right now while we have a few minutes. Obviously, there's a lot of artificial intelligence that we can cover only in an hour, but my goal is that you're taking something away from this. At least get a little bit informed, start exploring, and see how this can work for you, and don't get frustrated. A lot of this is new, I promise you. So we have some questions on here. Lisa, is there a way to turn off the always listening function on our phone? Train ChatGPT in your unique voice for better responses based on how we speak. That goes back, Lisa, thank you for that question about how you prompt. Now, I'm going to warn you, because of the nature of how GPT models work, you cannot copy and paste everything, okay? If you're going to do copy and paste to your external customers, like if you're trying to train your Wix chatbot for your website, that's great. You can have a pre-trained response, but remember, because GPT is generative, it will give you a different response each time. So if you're using copy and paste, like the best films of the 1980s with Sly Stallone, copy paste, you may get a different response today than you did tomorrow. Okay, hopefully that will answer the question. Angie, I've heard no giveaways that someone is using AI like social media, overuse of emojis, excessive use of the words. Delve into giveaways that people should be aware of. I love this question. Giveaways. Watch out for people who are trying to scam you. There's individuals on YouTube, my best knowledge base, that's an inside joke, of individuals who sell GPTs and sell prompts. They may be individuals in their 18s or 20s living at home who will sell you for $400, 50 of the best prompts. Do not buy into their lies. Let me explain why, okay? No one is an expert. This is still an area that we are still growing in, okay? You're gonna see that there are GPTs for sale. You're gonna see giveaways, and I think a lot of this comes from my experience in AML, looking at the urgency of buy now, take away this, it's this easy. You gotta always be on the edge for that, especially with technology, okay? You will see excessive use of words. Some people love to copy and paste special words like LLMs, large language models, generative, make your business grow. Ultimately, there's always a financial aspect at the end of that. So look out for those quick sales. If you have questions, of course, like mentioned, please send me an email. The contact information is in there. Let me see, do we have other questions, by the way? And anybody wanted to put something in the chat while we still have some time? Please go ahead. Okay. Understood. Thank you for taking the time to show up today and spend some time with me and giving me some of your time. All right. So we're just going to wrap up. We're getting now to the 12 o'clock mark. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Michael. This was incredibly informative. And like we said, we're going to have this up on YouTube in just a little bit. We'll send you guys a link and we will send you all of Michael's contact information in case you have more questions, which I'm sure we all left this with more questions about how we can use AI. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Stay safe. Till next time.